Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm James Haskell, along with my co-host Glenn Martin and DK in the background in somewhere new. I don't know where he's at, but DK is always somewhere new. He's like Carmen Sandiego. We are we are excited to get back to it. The draft is over. The rookies have come to Baltimore. I think almost all of them at this point are signed. We got a lot of stuff to catch up on, so we're going to be sure to get through all of it tonight during the show. But Glenn, before we get into it, how are you doing? Doing all right? Hanging in there?
Yeah, doing well. Excited to see football beginning, at least in some capacity, as we've gotten to see the tryouts and rookies for the first time with our own eyes. And as well as, look, the Orioles are going through some changes right now. They're struggling right now, but they did announce some pretty cool upgrades that I've been waiting for years, where they're finally going to replace the video board. They're going to replace the scoreboard in the right field wall. They're going to replace all the little score ribbons, displays around the stadium. So I am excited because it's long overdue. I didn't see it on the list, but I hope it's in the program as well. The sound system there has got to be redone. If somebody holds a microphone and speaks into it at Oriole Park, you will have no idea what the hell they're saying. So I'm happy that the Orioles Park is going to get a little bit of a makeover, but now they got to start playing like it on the field. But look, we're here to talk Ravens football, Jimbo, and I'm excited to be back with you. How you been?
Doing good, man. Hanging in there. Glad that the weather's kind of turned, been able to get outside a little more. So, yeah, doing good.
Nice. Awesome. Well, we have to start with, of course, the most recent news. And look, we got a lot to talk about. We got to talk about fifth-year options. We got to talk about the Ravens' newest addition, the tackle they just signed. But, of course, where we have to start, Justin Tucker, released by the Ravens. And this should come as no surprise, right? This has kind of been in the making, I feel like, for quite some time. Certainly after the Ravens made it clear they were searching for a kicker in the draft, then drafted Tyler Loop in the 6th round. And then, it comes out that they're not done there. They're bringing in other undrafted kickers who had college success. But the end of the era has come. Justin Tucker is no longer here. Of course, this is all coming from the allegations stemming from 2012 to 2016, where 16 massage therapists have accused him of some sort of sexually inappropriate behavior. But also coming on the heels of where he only made 73% of his kicks, missed 2 extra points, and probably had the worst season so far of his career. So bad timing on top of things. But Jimbo, when you saw the news, kind of give me your reaction. Were you surprised? Were you disappointed? Walk me through it.
Look, so I think the first thing that it's funny because I think we as in like Ravens fans had different reactions. My initial thought was, well, he did it. I mean, this to me means that the Ravens have empirical evidence that it's not worth the fight for them. It's not worth being attached to this guy because there's fire where there's a lot of smoke, right? However, a lot of people have also said that this was a football move in all reality, and that just like you said, Glenn, he's coming off of his worst year, and that there's some similarities to him and Ray Rice in this way. I'm not putting them in the same bucket. My point is that Ray was coming off his career worst year, I believe. Yep. And then the incident happened. Same thing with Justin. But imagine if the opposite is the situation, right? They're both coming off career years. How would the reaction been different, right? So, to me, my initial reaction, you asked, I took time to think it through, but first thought was he did it. And if he did it, I think, you get what you deserve, right? Mm-hmm. So just like every other person that did it. But outside of that, it's I don't know. I think that you're more convinced than I, but I don't know what part of it was based on this situation and what part of it was strictly football.
And that's the question, right? I mean, I think my whole thing is if I try to imagine in a world where these allegations haven't been brought forth towards Justin Tucker, what do I think the likelihood that they draft a kicker? I think it's pretty low because of the fact that he's the GOAT. And while he has not just had one poor season, certainly by his standards, he's had a couple here consecutively by his standards. And really by last year, by any standard, it was a poor season. So and he is 35 years old, I believe. And he had a decent cap hit. Certainly when it comes to comparatively to kickers, he had a pretty handsome cap hit. But I do think that being the GOAT, and still, he never relinquished that. He's still the most accurate kicker in history with given the amount of kicks he's attempted. And he still, has the leg. He still has the record for the longest kick. So I think he would have been given one more season. And I think that this is now, I don't think it's helping him that he's coming off a poor season. I think it's certainly playing a role, but I do think the allegations are the biggest reason why he's no longer on the team. And I think I'm not really sure, like you said, what if they got new evidence, they're not going to tell us that, but I have a hard time believing that they saw enough out of Tyler Loop in a 1 to 2 day practice session with no defensive linemen putting their hands up trying to block kicks, that they were like, we've seen enough, no pressure. No, he's not kicking in a stadium of 80,000 cheering fans. Nope. 1 day of kicking on a field where there's no linemen. That's all we need. We've seen enough. Tyler Loop is our guy. I find that incredibly hard to believe. And in fact, the fact that they're bringing in other competition for Tyler tells me, it could just be camp legs, but these are some pretty accomplished kickers that they're bringing in. Rumors are that they're bringing in Fitzgerald from Florida State, who was the first team All-American. And also they were bringing in,
I'll give you his name, the kid from Wyoming.
Hoyland.
Hoyland. Yep.
John Hoyland. So they're bringing in what appears to be competition for Tyler Loop, but Justin Tucker's not part of that competition. So I do think that either they found something out or what they have and what we've seen is enough for them to make this decision. But nonetheless, quickly, Jimbo, I just want to let you know financially what this does. The Ravens do save $4.2 million in salary cap space by designating him as a post-June 1 cut. This move will also allow them to split his $7.5 million in dead cap into 2.8 in 2025 and 4.6 in 2026. So there will be some dead cap with this move, but there are also some savings as well.
Yeah, no, certainly. There's a lot of factors that played into this, and we'll read the statement here in a second. And this is just guessing here at this point, but maybe it was the other factors. This was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back type thing. And it was like, all right, we had these other things, to deal with, but as far as the money and the aging and the not playing well, but now this happens, like, all right.
Yep.
So Eric DaCosta says, for those of you that are just listening, this is an official statement from Eric. Sometimes football decisions are incredibly difficult, and this is one of those instances. Considering our current roster, we have made the tough decision to release Justin Tucker. Justin created many significant, unforgettable moments in Ravens history. His reliability, focus, drive, resilience, and extraordinary talent made him one of the league's best kickers for over a decade. We are grateful for Justin's many contributions while playing for the Ravens. We sincerely wish him and his family the very best in the next chapter of their lives. Yeah, so let me ask you a question. This is the other big question I have. Does he get another shot somewhere else? Does he end up with the Brownies?
I was asked that. And I think there's probably 2 to 3 teams that would have the guts to do something like this, to risk the fact that there could be some evidence or some information that may not be publicly known that could then immediately become publicly known after he's signed by a new team. But so I don't think there's very many teams, but I do think there's a handful, particularly teams in smaller markets, teams that have struggled finding kickers, and with owners who don't necessarily, they're not in the owners club, they're on the kind of the outskirts. And you mentioned the Browns, that could potentially be one of them, but I think with the issues they're having at quarterback, they might steer clear of this one. Although I wouldn't be shocked to hear them sign him as well. But yeah, I do think it's just a shame, man, because this guy would have gone down as the only argument is Vinatieri, right? That's the only argument as far as the greatest kicker of all time. There's one guy. And let's say hypothetically, Tucker's, issues were more mental and he's able to get over that hurdle. And let's say he was given an opportunity to bounce back and he did just that and looked like the Justin Tucker of old. He could have had enough opportunity to erase even Vinatieri from the conversation of GOAT. And he would be the only one discussed when it talks about the greatest kickers of all time. He had that kind of resume, and he's just thrown it all away, Jimbo. If the allegations are true, guy, he completely threw it away. And what's going to happen is what happens to all these guys who make it into the record books, but have some sort of scar on their resume. They're just never going to bring him up, Jimbo. They're literally never going to say his name on national TV. They'll even put a list up that'll have him at the very top, and they will omit talking about that person at the top, and they'll start at the second spot. That's what I see. is his name will be forgotten, which is it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to fall that far, that's for sure. So do you think he makes the Hall?
That's the tough one. Because in the bylaws for the Hall of Fame voters, they are told to only look at what takes place on the field. That's literally, they say, do not look at the other stuff.
That's exactly why Pete Rose is in the Hall, right?
Well, this is a different Hall of Fame. The baseball is a little different, but in pro football, they do it too, Jimbo. They looked at T.O.
Oh, definitely. There's no way T.O.'s not a first ballot. If you're talking about the field.
Like, what are we talking about? So it's clear that even though it's literally in the bylaws that the voters cannot look at stuff that comes outside the field, within the locker room, any of that, they do it, and they're going to do it. So I'd find it very hard to believe. Look, it's already hard for a kicker to make the Hall of Fame anyway, but he was on track. He certainly would have. And if he would have retired without any allegations, he would have made the Hall of Fame. Now, I think
DK brings up a point.
What's that?
I'm saying DK brings this up. Sorry, DK, because I've been dragged about being too soft on Justin Tucker, but I fully endorse DK's point. There is a difference between Justin Tucker's allegations and Deshaun Watson's. There is a significant difference. DK says it's important to note that he hasn't been charged with a crime. Not even a civil case has been levied against him at this point.
Yeah.
So I know that the burden of proof is much lower for a civil case, but there is not even that being levied against him at this point. So in Justin's defense, I agree with you, Glenn, that this stain is, it's unable to be removed. It's unremovable, right? Like, it's a stain that's not going to go away. But we'll have to wait and see for the sake of his Hall of Fame bid is what I'm referencing.
Yeah. 5 years.
Yeah, and do you think he just retires? Do you think this is it for Justin? Or you think he goes off to play with another team? Like you said, I agree. I think he gets another shot. Well, this is my question. Do the Chargers have a kicking problem?
Oh, that's another one. That wouldn't be shocked at all to see them kick the tires.
Yeah, certainly.
The only question is, like, what does he have left to prove? What's his motivation to continue playing? Because he's literally done it all. I mean, there's nothing more he can really prove. And he's got to know that if he does sign with a team, he's going to be faced with those questions, certainly initially. Maybe not throughout, but initially he's going to get bombarded with questions. And he can do what others have done, like we've seen, in the past, where they just say, I choose not to talk about that. It's fine. But then he's going to hear about it on the field. He's going to hear about it by every fan as he's walking through the tunnel in opposing stadiums. Like, it's going to happen. Oh, that's right. They have Dicker, the kicker. That's right. They got Cam Dick. But I thought he had an injury last year. And then they were bringing in a bunch of kickers. Yeah, Fitzgerald. He signed with the Panthers. Okay, did he sign with the Panthers? Because I heard there was questions if he was signing with them. But that could be the case.
It was on Jeff's timeline. It was on Jeff's. Jeff tweeted about it. Whatever the word is.
Yeah.
So.
But even though if they're not bringing him in, they're still bringing in John Hoyland out of
There's still
Wyoming.
going to be competition.
Right. So. I don't know. It's just a shame, man. This guy had all the goodwill you could possibly build up in one city. And, I mean, he just burned it all away.
Yeah. For whether it's true or false. I mean, I know that there's a large faction of Ravens fans that still believe in Justin Tucker, but ultimately this will forever be a part of his resume. So, or his story.
And even if he does make the Hall of Fame, what's the first thing they're going to bring up? Like, they're going to bring up how it ended. So, it's just a shame. But let's hope that Tyler Loop is the next Justin Tucker, except without the allegations, just with the strong leg.
Minus the whipping out of the old boy.
But I will say this, Jimbo, the last time the Ravens had a rookie kicker.
I knew you were going to bring this up. I was waiting for this.
I mean, they might have won a Super Bowl. So maybe that is what's on the horizon for Baltimore and Tyler Loop, because he looked good. He had a couple nice long kicks, albeit without a defense trying to block it, but he can boot it. He's got a seriously strong leg. Bring Kyrie Vedvik back. I don't think we could pay Kyrie Vedvik to at least walk around in Baltimore anymore. Maybe if he gets an escort to and from the stadium, maybe.
Right. I don't know what that guy's doing.
Terrence. I know.
What do you say, Jeff?
Just can't believe it's still there. I know. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just like hoping it'll get better.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I feel like I'm kind of there with my hair right now. I don't know what I'm
But
doing.
yeah, but your hair, even when you think it looks bad, like guys in the chat, how does this hair look? Just say
it looks terrible right now.
Oh, here we go. It looks terrible. I guarantee. Yeah, Tucker was undrafted. Yep. Tucker was
undrafted. Loop was the first Raven kicker ever to be drafted,
which is pretty crazy when you consider the lineage of kickers. Of course, Stover was brought over, so didn't have the opportunity to be drafted. Right. But all right, so let's move on. Where should we go next, Jimbo?
Yeah, I think what we got to talk about next is the other transaction the Ravens made, and that's an acquisition, of course. The Ravens signed. Let me pull him up here, make sure I get his name right. Joseph Noteboom, the swing tackle, 7-year player from the Rams, of course. 29 years old, signed a 1-year deal with the Baltimore Ravens. He'll be backing up Ronnie Stanley, Roger Rosengarten. He has played a little bit of guard. We don't have to spend a ton of time here. One, I don't want to see him on the field because I want Ronnie and Roger to be healthy. But if he is on the field, do you think there's a chance they allow him to compete at guard?
Well, I think that if he is allowed to compete at guard, to me, that would be an indictment on the current guards that we have, because I think the entire reason he's here is solely to be the swing tackle, to be the replacement for Pat McCary. Because if he's not able to, let's say that he wasn't here, or let's say he got injured, who you gonna like? You gonna put a rookie at left tackle? You gonna put, there's Joseph Noteboom, most recently of the Rams. But if it's not for him, then you're going to have to go with one of these young guys. I'm not so sure if you want to go down the route of all of a sudden inserting a rookie left tackle in it. I mean, rookie in it left tackle with your quarterback, making the kind of money is. And of course, the importance of Lamar Jackson. So I think this is solely to be our swing tackle, the way it doesn't require Vincent to all of a sudden be thrust into any play time. It allows him to take the time he needs, because that guy, you remember, Emry Jones is a guard. So to me, he's not really a swing tackle, in my opinion. He's a guard, and I think they want to put him at guard and leave him at guard. But Vincent is a tackle. He's a big guy with long arms and strength, but he's coming from a small school at Alabama A&M, and he's got that baby fat body. Like, he needs to turn into a man in the weight room before he's brought in. So I think all this is doing is giving him the amount of time, Vincent the amount of time he needs to develop and become the true swing tackle of the future. It allows Emry to focus solely on being a guard, and now Joseph Noteboom is our swing tackle.
I like it, and I'm sure I'm okay with that. And I think you bring up a good point. If that is indeed the case, that he gets reps at tackle, or at guard, it would be a pretty serious indictment on the guys that are in front of him. Yeah. So anyway, the next thing we want to talk about, Glenn, is
Jimmy, does it look greasy? Lisa Ann says it looks greasy. Look,
I don't think it looks.
I'm very hygienic, guys. I shower every day. Okay.
This is true.
But I do put lotion on my face, and so I feel like I'm just looking greasy as it is. Never mind.
It's okay. Look, dude, what do you think?
Dude, looking good, Jimbo. What would you you know what? One day you should. He looked like a leprechaun. Look at Amish. Damn it, guys. I do have a leprechaun tattooed on my arm. So I am embracing the leprechaun look. And I can see the Amish look. You know what?
Glenn has me tattooed on his arm.
Yes, it's right here. Right there.
Did you get it? Did you get my joke?
Because you're a leprechaun?
Because I'm short like a leprechaun?
You are short like a leprechaun. You're more like the ones that make the cookies. What do they call it? The Keebler. You're the elf.
I'm that short.
You're the elf. No, you're
I'm
not
like
that.
Right at the line of acceptance.
You are. It's not you're not obvious. The first thing you go is, wow. You don't go, wow, that guy's short when he walks into a room. That makes you feel any better.
Only when we do the show live.
Yes, then it's perspective.
And it's okay with me. I'm used to it. You know what I mean?
I think you were taller than Dayton Wade. I don't know, man. I think you might have Dayton. We have to pull up the record on him. He's pushing you. I appreciate you, Katie. You see that?
Yeah. That's all that matters.
That's it. That's all that matters. Yeah. But anyway, all right. So let's move on to the 5th-year option conversation here, Jimbo, because this was getting a lot of attention here as the Ravens announced a few days ago that they are deciding to pick up the 5th-year option for Kyle Hamilton, who was drafted, 4 years ago now, going into his 4th year. So
going into his fourth.
3 years ago. But they decided not to pick up the 5th-year option for Tyler Linderbaum, who was drafted just a few picks behind him in the same first round of the same draft, causing a lot of fans to go, "What the hell? I thought this guy. I thought we liked Tyler Linderbaum. I thought he was one of our guys. I thought we." And so, Jimbo, when you saw the news, I know you've had a few days to digest it, but
yeah,
were you at all shocked by what? Take me through when you saw the announcement.
Yeah, so for me, we had kind of talked about this, so we kind of knew what was going on here, right? So I could see how someone would be shocked by this initially, but it's really not the case. I wouldn't be concerned about the Ravens' feelings towards Tyler Linderbaum or the other way around. The issue is that offensive linemen, when it comes to 5th-year option, do not have a position designation, so they all get lumped in together. So based on Tyler's success, it would have been north of $24 million for that fifth, or $23 million, excuse me, for that 5th year, when 23.4 to keep him for that 5th year, not to keep him, but to not negotiate a contract. So for me, what this means is that they feel very confident, in fact, that they're going to get a deal done with Tyler. Mm-hmm. That they're not feeling like his agent is not able, it's not reasonable, that Tyler's not reasonable. So actually, I think this is weird. I think it's a good thing because it's forced the action to happen faster. He's going to get his money sooner, and the Ravens, we get him longer sooner, and we get that assurity sooner. So I'm okay with it. So to me, I think it's a good sign. Yeah,
absolutely. For those worrying, fear not. Tyler Linderbaum is very much so in the plans.
Right.
But you guys, like Jimmy mentioned, the fact that all linemen are clumped into one position group, it's pretty clear that tackles get paid more than guards, and guards get paid more than centers on average. Now, there's outliers, and particularly at center, one big-time outlier is Creed Humphrey. He makes annually, I think, $18 million a year, and he's about $4 million more than the next place center. So it goes from 18 annually to 14 annually. So he is a massive outlier. Now, having said that, Linderbaum was set to make $23.5 million on that 5th-year option. So if the outlier, if by far the highest-paid center in the league is making 18, you certainly don't want to pay your starting center, even though you look at him as right there with Creed Humphrey and just as good and just as successful. You're not going to pay him that much more, because even if on a free market, at the most it would take to satisfy even an agent of Tyler Linderbaum, who may be pushing Tyler to be the next highest guy, 18.1 is likely all it would take, or maybe 18.001. Like, some of these guys just need $1 more to feel satisfied. So you're not going to jump it by another $5.5 million annually. That would be absolutely insane, irresponsible. And that's why a lot of GMs say, well, we won't take positions like this in the first round because we want to avoid that. Well, this is the Ravens' way of doing it. We're going to have our cake and eat it too. We're going to take the best center in the first round, and we're not going to pay this ridiculous 5th-year option. We're just going to decline it and then sign him on his own and make him the highest paid center. Now, and that is my question, Jimbo. Do you view him as next in line, even though, like I mentioned, there's a big gap between first and second when it comes to center, especially compared to other positions where it's usually incremental increases. They jump by $4 million. Do you expect Tyler's deal to pass Creed Humphrey, or do you think he'll be slotted just beneath?
I think he ends up slotted just beneath because I think I don't know. I just don't understand. I think Creed's deal is excessively over the top as far as like the next man up. Why did the jump need to be that? Now, I think he will be the first in guaranteed dollars. Like, I will be willing to bet that the percentage of guaranteed money, if you take his total contract value and percentage of that guaranteed, Tyler's will be higher than anybody's. That I believe.
Okay.
But I don't know if the Ravens are ready to go north of 18 a year for as good as Tyler is. We're huge Tyler Linderbaum fans. We were super excited when they drafted him. Mm-hmm. And so I want him here. We want him here. But I also don't think he's like a high pressure guy. I don't think he cares.
Right.
He wants his money, right? But I don't think he cares that much at the end of the day, right? Like, he's gonna live the same.
Yeah. And you'd expect that from an offensive lineman, right? Like,
a kid from Iowa, like.
Yeah, like he knows he's going to be just fine. He's going to be taken care of. He's going to let his agent do his job. But we've seen this before where sometimes the too lackadaisical player can allow the agent to kind of feel like the boss.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to have a balance there where you got to remind the agent, hey, you do work for me. I'm going to let you do your job, but you do work for me, not the other way around. I think that's important, and I hope Tyler kind of recognizes that. But look, he's not going anywhere, folks. He's going to be here a very long time.
Yeah.
You don't start 49 games in your first 3 years, or how many years? It's 3 years, right?
3 years, yeah.
Yeah, that's an insane amount of production, earning 2 Pro Bowl nods. I mean, you're the anchor for the best rushing attack since you've been in the league. And certainly last season you were number 1. So yeah, he's not going anywhere. And neither is Kyle, and that's no surprise. Kyle Hamilton will undoubtedly be the highest paid safety. The only question is he the highest paid DB? Does he surpass all of the current cornerbacks on the market? And if that's the case, Jimbo, if he does want number 1 corner money, that's going to be a tough call for the Ravens.
Yeah, I think that he ends up, being slotted in as the highest paid safety. I think it's just going to be as simple as that. I don't think it gets too crazy.
I hope so, because these DBs are trying. It's just like pass catching tight ends. They want to be lumped in as wide receivers. I don't want to be paid like a tight end. I want to be paid like a pass catching wide receiver. We saw Jimmy Graham kind of have that stance first. And so hopefully the Ravens can get him for safety prices and not cornerback prices. But either way, both, I believe, will be here long term. And
he's a defensive player. I think the mindset is a bit different, if I'm going to be honest.
Think so? Okay.
Yeah.
Corners got a little
pass catchers are diva. I guess that's true. The divas of the defense are
pretty diva-like.
Yeah, that's true.
But it'll remain to see. But I will say this, guys,
will remain to be seen.
Thank you. I will say this: if you sign Lamar and you sign Kyle, you sign Tyler, you sign Zay, you sign Likely, you're going to have a whole lot of rookies and vet minimums, and you're not going to be able to have the most loaded roster unless guys are willing to come here and play for less. Which having Lamar Jackson makes that a possibility. But man, it's the balance, right? Like, you want good players, but then you got to pay them.
Yeah, so that's a big part of it. And then, you got to hit, like you said, on rookies. But it's a good problem to have ultimately, right? And I think if anybody can handle it, it's the Ravens. So I'm looking forward to Linderbaum here a long time, Kyle here a long time. But it's a good point you bring up. I mean, you can't pay everybody, right? Got to hit in the draft. Got to hit.
And you know what? If you guys haven't heard it, during Eric DeCosta's last sit down with the Lounge, I think it was this week, you can find the clip. He talks about his draft philosophy, and I thought it was just brilliant. He talked about how many players have been taken number 1 overall and ended up not being anything. How many players have been played number 10, number 5 overall, ended up being nothing. And he was really talking about, because he was asked about why not trade up. What's the advantages, disadvantages? He said it just doesn't make any sense to trade up, because there's no saying that the 5th pick in the draft is going to be better than the 25th pick in the draft. There's no guarantee of that. So the only thing you can do to guarantee that your success rate might be higher than other teams is to get as many picks as humanly possible, because so much of this is luck. And so who's gotten more picks than anybody in the league since the compensatory pick, formula has become a thing? It's the Ravens, because they realized very early on, as much insight, as much, homework you can do on all these guys, you never know. And so much of this is luck. It's not all luck, but so much of it is luck. So the only thing you can control to some degree is how many shots you have at it. So what do? They just load up shots, and they just keep throwing darts and hoping shit sticks. So if you haven't heard it, like, he does a much better way of it's like a 2-minute clip of describing his philosophy. And I think that's why he is who he is.
Yeah. So, it's like Kobe Bryant saying, I'd rather go 0 for 30 than 0 for 9.
Keep shooting, baby.
Yeah, that's all you can do at the end of the day, right? All right, so the other thing we got to talk about, Glenn, is we got to talk about rookie minicamp.
Please.
And there's some notes out there. There's some I don't even call them reports. There's some tweets and otherwise out there, right? Like not full on reports, but some things to get excited about if you're the Baltimore Ravens, first impression type stuff. So look, Malachi Starks seems to be all that is advertised. Looks to be extremely cerebral in his game, really diverse in his ability, to play different parts of the field. And I know people are excited about it. I know that Chuck Pagano is certainly excited about one Malachi Starks. My question to you, Glenn, is what does it look like, the rotation between those three, those three being Kyle, Malachi, and Ardarius? I know we play a lot of times with the three out there. Do you see that? My thought is that I don't think we necessarily see less of Ardarius by a large amount. I think we see more of the three instead of less of just Ardarius. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. When we saw this Ravens defense at its best, it was when they had Geno Stone playing a ton of snaps, Kyle Hamilton playing a ton of snaps, and Marcus Williams playing a ton of snaps. All three played nearly 100% of the snaps once they were all three kind of inserted into the lineup. I think that's what we'll see this year. I think you'll see Malachi. Now, look, these guys are all going to move around because they want to keep offenses guessing. They want to keep the deception up. But primarily, I think Malachi will be on the back end. I think he'll be the new center fielder. Kyle will be up near the line of scrimmage. And, man, they're going to move Ardarius all over the place, Jimbo. He's going to be in the nickel. He's going to be at the dime. I think sometimes he'll be in a more traditional safety role. They'll bring Malachi up. Malachi might man up the tight end. They just have so many. They can treat all these guys almost interchangeably with one another. And it's crazy to think of that because if you stack the three up next to each other, like you wouldn't think you could just interchange those guys, right? You wouldn't look at 6'4" Kyle Hamilton and then 5'7" Washington and go, you know what? Those two can play and do the same things pretty much. We can do. But that's I think what they're going to do. They're all three going to play a ton of snaps. If they're all healthy, I fully expect all three of these guys to play 85% of the snaps plus. And Malachi, to me, is, even though young, he's an extension of your coaching staff on the field. The guy is incredibly smart when it comes to football. He's, I think, a football savant. When you listen to him talk, the way he breaks down plays, like, if you guys haven't seen it, again, check out him walking through that interception he had, the interception that made him the most famous, where he's covering the slot at Clemson and Skies contorts his body, somehow makes the catch. The film study he broke down, he said, look, I knew when they go 3-by-1, three receivers, one on one side, one on the other, and they have the speed guy on the inside, they only run a couple different concepts out of that. Like, to have that level of most guys are going, am I in the right spot? Like, he's already done it. So, yeah, I think this guy is going to bring a lot to this defense, and, man, I can't wait to see him.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Glenn. I'm really excited about the versatility and his ability to bring those three guys. I think are particularly cerebral in their approach to football. I think Ardarius has to be right to simply keep up, right? Like his instincts have to be next level, and his ability to see the field really well. Kyle clearly is the same, and Malachi's right there. So I think that's maybe a piece that people are talking about, the versatility, but I think to have that much on the field, especially back there where they're able to see so much, is going to be valuable as well in helping the rest of the defense that's out in front of them. Now, I also want to talk about Mike Green, and people's impressions of him are also exciting on and off the field, being very open, about his situation and not trying to be coy or beat around the bush or anything like that, I think is important and a good take for him to kind of move forward from this. But what I want to ask you, Glenn, is that do you believe that he can be our next, it's really early, but do you believe he can be our next franchise pass rusher, like since what, like Suggs, really? You know what I mean?
Well, that's, I think, the expectation, at least if you just focus on the on-field. He led the FBS with 17 sacks last season. His pass rush grade the last 2 years is top the nation, and it wasn't even close last year. Had a 92 pass rush rate from PFF, 90-point-something the year before. So he's a stud. There's no doubt about it. He's got an ability to convert speed to power. He can bend the edge. He's got a litany of pass rush moves that, most guys this age just don't have that kind of polishing, and he certainly has it. His size didn't seem like people are like, oh, is he a smaller guy? Well, not from the impression that these guys are giving online. That he's a well put together guy. Like this isn't a guy where it looks like he doesn't look like he can handle. No, that won't be the case. But putting him up there on that echelon it's pretty early. So he still has a long way to go. Health is such an important thing when it comes to if you have a successful career like Terrell Suggs or these guys. So a lot's going to be have to go his way, and a lot's going to have to break his way. I'm hopeful that this is the kind of the last we hear about the issues in his past. He declined to talk about them, both his slide in the draft and his past sexual assault charges or allegations, I should say. But man, I'm just hyped that we got a guy who looks like he can bend the edge. I can't remember the last time we had a guy who could just come off the edge and just beat your tackle with straight speed. Like, we haven't had a guy like this in forever. So I'm hopeful. I don't want to get myself too excited because I don't want to be let down. But man, I have I wouldn't be shocked at all if Mike Green's a double-digit sack getter as a rookie, which we haven't seen since Terrell Suggs, to your point.
Yeah, and I think just like you said, I mean, Terrell Suggs also led the country in sacks during his last year in college. He was at 24, which is...
And ended his career with the record, the most as far as career as well.
Yeah, no, but and then didn't Sack Daddy beat him?
Yep, he did. Mr. Ferguson, yes.
Yeah. Man, so it's going to be really interesting to see what this kid can do. I'm excited about his upside, that's for sure. All right, the other now, we talked about Tyler Loop, excited about him. Emry Jones has been limited. I'm sure you've seen that, and you guys have seen that as well. Has a shoulder issue, I believe, and so coach said, we're not going to rush him back. Excited to see him out there, though, that's for sure. The Ravens brought in 17 undrafted free agents and invited around 30 guys to try out. So it's going to be interesting to see how this thing shakes out, man. I think it's going to be a really fun offseason. It's going to be an offseason that keeps on giving.
Yeah, no doubt. Emry, that's disappointing to see. He's dealing with the shoulder injury.
Yeah, for sure, especially early on because he's missing valuable time.
Yeah, you don't like to see that. But I will say the Ravens are going to be patient with him. They'll allow him to get himself healthy before the good thing is they're not relying on Emry Jones for really anything this year. Like, they're hopeful that he can compete for right guard or potentially left guard. I think it's right guard is really his focus. But they don't need him this year, right? Like Faalele, as much as we kind of razz him and we're hoping that they could potentially upgrade, he's not like, I expect Faalele to be better this year than he was last year.
Yeah.
And by the end of the season, he was pretty good. He was pretty serviceable. I'd say that. I mean, he was a Pro Bowl alternate, to whatever that's worth. But we don't need Emry Jones this year. I think next year the need becomes a little bit more. So I'm okay with him hanging out and getting himself healthy. And then let's see what we got in him. Zay Flowers did bring up, Harbaugh mentioned that he did not need surgery after the knee injury. It kept him, out of the playoff game in January, but he was able to rehab and build muscle around it and use that as a form of rehabilitation rather than going the route of surgery. I did just see a video of him doing some pretty impressive squats, looking like working on some explosion and strengthening around the knee. What are your expectations from Zay Flowers this year? Do you think he is he ever going to be talked about in the upper echelon as like a true number one receiver league wide? Like we hear, Terry McLaurin, AJ Brown, DK.
I think he'll have to be. Part of it is all going to depend on his usage, right? And not only the volume, but also the way that Monken uses him, because I think people see him as kind of gimmicky at the line because he gets a lot of that short stuff. Certainly we don't see him that way here in Baltimore, but I think certainly he has all. I mean, do we leave Steve Smith out because he's a shorter guy? Steve just kind of kicked the door down, right? And said,
it's a little different, but yeah.
But with his play, I think that certainly Zay has the same ability, has every opportunity to do so.
Yeah.
So, I think he'll eventually get there. I expect another step forward for Zay Flowers this year, but I'm also not going to be upset if we don't see it in his numbers, because that just means that Bateman's getting it, Likely's getting it. All these other guys, the ball's being spread around. I mean, football is the ultimate team game. DeAndre Hopkins getting it as well. So I think that Zay will show marked improvement for those who watch the game and not just look at the stats in this upcoming season.
Okay. Don C said, he says, are we homers? But I love the picks. Mike Green, much bigger than I thought. Yes, he is. Starks, I'm most excited for freeing up Kyle Hamilton. And my favorite is Fub. Yeah, I mean, he's got a hell of a nickname. Yeah, he's going to be disruptive on third down. I think he'll struggle to get on the field in early downs because we got a pretty damn good group ahead of him. But I think he's going to find his way on the field on third down and get after the quarterback's ass and cause some issues lined up next to Metabike. But because this year Travis Jones is expected to take that next step. And part of that next step that some believe is that he can improve his pass rush ability. And we've already seen it in last year where he's pushing the pocket. He's certainly constricting that pocket. Do you think it's going to be tough for Fub? Because, look, I'm excited about him too, but we got studs. Like, Broderick Washington is our third guy. I mean, what do you think the realistic, goals should be for a guy like Fub who's got some studs in front of him, Jimbo?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question that you bring up, right? Like, what's going to be his impact? You know what? I think his impact is going to be significant because I think that those guys will rotate out enough. You want the guys to be fresh, right? Like, he's going to get reps. He's going to get opportunities, and maybe they'll put some, I don't know, you call it a NASCAR package together, right? You put him, NASCAR for the guys on the interior, right? Like next to Metabike, and then you put, Adafe and Mike Green out there. There's some fast dudes up front, right? So I think that he'll have more. I think that he'll play a significant role in the rotation. I get your point about we got guys there. We certainly do. But I do feel like if anybody rotates a ton, those guys rotate in and out. We want the big boys up front to be nice and fresh.
Yeah, no doubt. And look, Cam's saying that Brody, all right. When I said stud, I was mainly referring to the guys above. But I will say Broderick, he did have one great year in his contract year. And look, to Cam's point, I do recall there being games last year where he was a healthy scratch. And that, performances by Brody, I think, coaches wanted to see a little bit more out of him. But what I'm saying is that on downs 1 and 2, he's still going to be hard to get off the field if you're Fub because he's just had 4 years of NFL training. He knows what to expect. He's a big, strong guy, and it's just going to be a lot to unseat him. So on passing downs, that's where I said I think he's got an opportunity. He'll be competing with Travis Jones and Nnamdi Metabike there, which is no easy task. And Nnamdi's not coming off the field. I think we can all agree there. And then some question whether or not we're going to kick some of these outside guys inside, like Tavius Robinson. There's been questions like, hey, why don't we have Nnamdi and Tavius on the inside on like a dime package? Have Nnamdi and Tavius on the inside and have Mike Green and Adafe Owe on the outside. Or where's KVN on the mix? KVN could get kicked on the inside. Like there's a lot of options. And all I'm saying is it's going to be hard to just jump and leapfrog all those guys.
Yeah.
Even if he is a good player, because there's other good players in front of him.
Yeah.
But as far as his other ones, go ahead.
I think Mike is our best pass rusher today.
Yeah, but look, Jimbo.
It's in college.
First of all, you still hated Adafe for what he did last year. But Are we still overlooked? I still always have to remind myself that Kyle Van Noy is still here and he's still pretty good. Like, are we forgetting
he's a good
him?
Football player. No. I think that in 6 months, KVN will say the same thing.
Okay.
And he knows his role. Like, it's not like he doesn't have a job to do, right?
That's a good point.
You're talking about a pass rusher. I think Mike Green is already our best pass rusher. Like,
damn,
just pure pass, rusher of the quarterback.
I can't wait to see him against, remember those joint practices this year? John Harbaugh already said he's working on it. He expects to have a joint practice. Just don't know who that will be with yet because they're still waiting on, the preseason and all that stuff to come out. But I can't wait to see him up against Ronnie, up against Rosengarten, and then eventually, at that joint practice against some other guys because, he's good, man. I was just listening to Chris Sims talk about he still can't believe he's a top 10 guy. We got him at 59. It's absolutely crazy. Also, some notes. I did see Dayton Wade getting some love, making several big plays and several big catches, drawing the attention of the media who was in attendance. So that's pretty cool. Shout out to Dayton Wade, who I think has an opportunity to become.
Oi. Oi.
Excuse me. Sorry. Man, the window's being open. I've been sneezing so much over the last 3 days. It's unbelievable. I'm not a sneezer. But anyway, so shout out to Dayton Wade. Hope he makes a big impact. But I will say this, Jimbo. LeJontay Wester, where DraftFlex said he was probably their most, like, the guy he had is, like, almost around the line of not draftable because he views LeJontay as strictly a returner.
Yeah.
He says that's the only way. Now, he could do some gadget stuff, like you mentioned, Zay. Kind of, you think that's maybe kind of getting knocked by other, because most number ones don't do the gadget stuff at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean gimmick. I meant gadget. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I know what you meant. And so the expectation is, well, if Wester's to make this team, he has to be the return man. And then for them to get true value out of him and make him a game day active, he's probably going to have to do some on offense. And likely the stuff he'll do is jet sweeps, quick screens.
And maybe
what does that mean for Dayton Wade? What does that mean for Dayton Wade?
Well, I think Dayton's scope, as far as like what he's able to do, I think the Ravens see differently than him. Than the kid we just drafted out of Colorado, right? I think they see Dayton as a receiver, like as a, I don't know how to put this, like a number 3, number 4 type receiver, right? Like not just a jet sweep guy or not just a returner or anything like that. I think that Dayton, I think they believe he can do a little bit more than that.
Okay. I hope so. I think they do too, but you can only have so many guys active. And if Wester beats him as the return guy, it's going to be hard,
Absolutely. And I was going to say what I think we should do, Glenn, is that we should, before we build out our entire roster, let's do a show where we just talk about the rookies and who we think makes the team and who doesn't.
Okay.
Because I think the chances of all 11 making it are essentially slim to none.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I think it's slim. Is it not? You've already got a couple locks. I mean, I guess our kicker's not really a lock. I considered him a lock at first, but first 3 rounds, I guess, are locks. Oh,
right?
yeah.
But then after that, we got to talk about it. So I think that would be a fun show to do.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And then you got to remember too, they brought in quite a list of undrafted guys that are competing for those same roster spots. And some people are more encouraged by, some of the undrafted guys than they are the late round picks. So yeah, there's a lot of competition. And look, this is just the very beginning of it, folks. This is just where things have started. Looks like moving forward, OTAs, May 27th to 29th is the next time we'll see these individuals, as far as I know. And then after that, June 3rd through the 5th is the other OTA. And then followed by mandatory minicamp, which is from June 10th to the 12th. So we still got some stuff going on the end of this month, and then certainly a lot kicking up in June. But I just hope right now none of these guys get in any sort of trouble, right? Because right now you're in a bit of a lull. What's that?
Stay home, stay in the gym, hang out, take the time, get the rest. This is the one thing I know. I do not play football, but one of the things I know about situations where you're going into a scenario where it's going to be high anxiety, there's going to be a lot of competing and things like that. Sleep always sucks before, certainly the night before, maybe a few nights before. So stack your sleep, stack it, because you're going to be behind. Stack it now. And I might just be an old man talking, but certainly I try and do that on race weeks, because I know the night before my whole family feels it. Henry never sleeps well. Henry has never slept well before any of my races ever.
Wow.
Like,
you feel the anxiety in you. Huh?
I think so. I that's my only thought, so certainly there's always going to be other forces at play. So just hang out, man, go do something fun, enjoy, go on vacation, whatever. Anyway, I think that's it for us though, right?
Yeah, I think we touched on everything. Look at that.
I think we got you guys got you up to
See? I told you.
Well, look,
he wasn't even here when I asked the question, Jimbo. And I bet he wasn't even I haven't seen him until just now.
It's just the lighting.
Well, I don't know what it is, dude, but you got a head of hair on you, Jimbo. I'll tell you.
Hey, look, God can't give with 2 hands, but It's okay. I need something, right?
Looks like opossum fur. Hold up.
What's that? Possum fur? Like my hair? Oh, your face hair?
I don't know if you're talking about you or me.
Oh.
Opossum. You don't look like an opossum.
I don't even know.
You ate wrong. Oh no. Jimbo does got that underwear that underwear model game. Tommy Hilfiger, baby. Yeah, buddy.
Oh man, if I didn't have a dad bod.
Dad bod. Get out of here, Jimbo. He's humble, ladies and gentlemen. But look, that's it for us tonight. Well, we will be back here in the not too distant future to keep you up to date on all your Ravens news. Have a good night.
See ya.